what's up guys? My name is Zach, and this week I've been driving the 2024 Ford Mustang GT Premium. Up front is a 5.0 liter V8, and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video because I've spent the last week driving this GT Premium Mustang as my daily driver. I've driven it in the rain, I've driven it at night, I've driven it quite a bit, and so I have plenty of thoughts to share with you here today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 5-liter V8 under the hood. Well, it's the Coyote Gen 4 V8 from Ford, and more or less, it's the similar V8 to what they've been using the last 15-ish years. And so that poses the first fork in the road for the Mustang GT. This is the brand new generation of the Ford Mustang, the S650 if you're into chassis codes, and yet it drives like a 2012 Mustang. It doesn't feel really any different in any sort of way. This makes 486 horsepower, which is a healthy bump over the outgoing generation, but it still just drives in that older style way. Now, you can take that two ways, of course. If you're paying $62,000, you might want something to feel a little bit fresher, a little bit more new. Or if you're a big fan of the brand and you just want new technology, but the same old feel, well, this is the car for you. Like I said, paired to it is a Tremec 6-speed manual transmission. However, you can option these with a automatic 10-speed if you would like, but I prefer the manual. It does take quite a bit of strength to get it in and out of gear, as opposed to any Japanese or German counterparts. But that's what Mustangs have always offered, and so you still get that same feeling here in the S650 GT. Last but not least, of course, it is rear-wheel drive. If it were anything else, it would be a sin. How does it feel to drive the 2024 Ford Mustang GT Premium? It is wonderful. The V8 is great. Like I said, it doesn't feel new, but you're driving a manual V8 car. It's gonna put a smile on your face, it's gonna be a great experience, and it's gonna sound absolutely awesome. It's been such a pleasure to drive this around. Just like I said, I was expecting a new and interesting and different sort of feel, and it doesn't offer that. But I mean, you can't deny that it sounds pretty freaking great, and we'll talk about exhaust modes a little bit later on. Fuel economy, 15 miles to the gallon I've been averaging, which isn't stellar. However, Ford does allow you to run this vehicle off of 87 octane, which is fantastic with their performance vehicles because the Bronco Raptor will also take 87, which is really, really nice. You can take the cheapest gas you could find, and the car will operate on that perfectly. So I really do appreciate that Ford allows for that. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because that's where you'll see most of the updates. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. Now, there is a lot going on. However, I'm actually a big fan of the digital cluster because they let you customize things. And so you can cycle through several different gauge cluster modes for race mode and sport and normal and calm, which is great, especially for people that might have sensory issues or it's too much going on. They offer a calm screen, which I think is very smart, and I think all cars should offer that, especially for people with those kinds of issues. But Ford has done something that I have been asking every single car manufacturer to do since digital clusters came out. They let you have the gauge cluster of a 87 to 93 Ford Mustang, the Fox body Mustang. They let you have the gauge cluster from that, and even at night, it actually lights up green. This is so cool. Every car manufacturer with digital gauges should offer hundreds, if not thousands, of different gauge cluster setups to suit your every feeling, need, and want. It's a screen. It should be able to do whatever. Of course, make it highway safe and follow all the codes and whatnot, but I should be able to make this gauge cluster look like a 65 Mustang. I should be able to have the gauge cluster from a Mustang too. And so Ford is on their way with that. They also, for the 60th anniversary of the Mustang, allowed for some over-the-air updates to do an older style cluster as well. This is the coolest thing in the world. Absolutely awesome. and I love it. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our adaptive cruise control options, as well as our drive mode select. For normal, custom, slippery, drag strip, track, sport, and then back to normal. Absolutely love the graphics that come up when you switch modes. And in slippery mode, I will say, driving it in the absolute pouring rain here, it did a very good job. I tried to get it to slide out, and it wouldn't in slippery mode. Of course, I'm sure if I gave it enough effort, it would, but I felt very safe and very confident in slippery mode in the rainstorms. Off to the right on the steering wheel, we do have our steering wheel adjustments for normal, eco, and sport, as well as volume, selectors, that sort of thing. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent. Then we have our headlight switches and trunk release, as well as our gauge dimmer switch. And moving on to the door, we have lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we get a continuation of the gauge cluster to a large infotainment screen. And this is a big downside, at least for me personally, with the new Mustang. The issue I have with it, first of all, it is a very beautiful screen. Tons of stuff you could do in here. You could go to the Mustang pages and customize your auxiliary gauges and your color scheme, your cluster theme, custom mode, track apps. You could take a look at that and have acceleration timer, brake performance, lap timer, launch control, shift indicator, all of these really, really cool things, along with, of course, changing the different exhaust modes. We have a very quiet mode, and you can actually set this to have time parameters. So like before 8 a.m., it'll start the car with this quiet mode, but after 8 a.m., it'll start it in loud mode, which is very considerate of your neighbors. Highly recommend that you use this. But then we have normal, sport, and track, as well as a little information button that will kind of explain some stuff. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, of course, but the big downside of the screen is that the climate controls are actually ran through the screen. There are no physical climate controls, and I absolutely hate this. No matter the car make, brand, whatever, I don't like touchscreen climate controls, and that all came to a head this morning when I actually got in the car to make this video because the screen was having an issue booting up. Here's a time lapse of how long it took before I could adjust my climate controls. And my climate controls were on hot because it was cold the night before, but today it's really warm, so I wanted to turn them down, so I was just getting roasted for about a minute, which would have been solved had I had physical climate controls. So, big headache here, don't really like that. Down below, we do have our climate control vents, and then we have a couple of physical buttons here. We have our start-stop button, of course, our Mustang mode, or My Mustang button, traction control off, hazard switch, favorite button, and max defrost, as well as our volume knob off to the right. And then we have our USB-C, USB-A, and 12-volt outlet, as well as a wireless charger down below. Then we come to the shifter. I think the shifter looks good. Like I said, it takes a little bit of muscle to get it into gear as opposed to other vehicles in this segment, but it looks good, feels good, gives you that confident shift that you're looking for, and it has a relatively short throw for all things considered. Then we have the handbrake. Now, in the modes, you can use this as a drift brake. So basically it works as a hydro e-brake if you're familiar with drifting, which will lock up the rear wheels, allow you to rotate the car a little bit easier, things like that, which is cool. That is a very unique and very awesome thing that Ford allows you to do. However, the 99.9% of people that will never use that are going to be very frustrated by this parking brake because it is a power parking brake. It's electronic. However, it looks like an old school one, and to put it on, you have to pull it up, which you don't have to pull it up that far, but if you do pull it up all the way, it takes quite a bit of muscle to do. My girlfriend could not pull it all the way up. That's how stiff it is. And then to turn it off, you just push it down a little bit. I don't like electronic parking brakes at all, but even this just makes it way worse for some reason. If you're going to do an electronic one, just do a button. I understand the drift brake. Totally get that, and it's a very cool feature, but I think it's kind of alienating the other 90% of Mustang buyers that have no interest in drifting. Then we do have cup holders. We'll do a big freaking bottle test. However, we've tested the Dark Horse, and it failed, so this also fails the big freaking bottle test. Then we do get a little center console, and we'll talk about the seats. The seats are Recaro seats, and they are rather slim. I'm a big guy and I don't fit in them very happily. However, I've gone the last week driving it daily and it's been fine in that regard. But if you are a bigger guy like me, you might struggle with the Recaro seats, so I don't know if I would personally option these on my Mustang. But if you are smaller than me, which odds are you probably are, you'll fit in these just fine. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. Of all the back seats I've reviewed in my day, I have a feeling This is going to be one of the worst. Now, latch right here in the center of the back, but that only pushes it forward. Do I have to, yep, manually move it up? Oh my god. Oh lord, oh lord, oh lord. Okay, do I really need to say it? I mean, just look at my neck. Look at my back. Look at my... I'm going to get out before all the gnats come in because we just had a rainstorm and they're all here. No good. Don't put people back here if you like them. Right around the back of the 2024 Mustang GT Premium, double click it here on the key fob and come up and just pull it up the rest of the way. Here's the trunk of the new Mustang. Nothing really too crazy to report. We do get a giant speaker off to the right for that premium sound system, and we can pull this up, and we don't get a spare tire. We just get an inflator kit, because that's the way that the world is going. So, unfortunately, no full-size spare or spare at all. But that is the trunk space of the Ford Mustang GT Premium. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I think this is an incredibly large win for the Mustang GT for 2024. They redesigned the exterior, of course, still looks like a Mustang. They didn't go too far from the older design, but I think they updated it in a very healthy, very positive, very good way. It's aggressive. Walking to and from this car has been one of my favorite parts of the week by far. The bronze wheels, the dark matter paint, the wing at the back, the big red Brembos. I mean, I think this thing looks like it is going to eat you alive, and that is absolutely awesome. I love seeing that with the Mustangs, and I think this is one of the most handsome generations of Mustang to ever come out, and that's saying a lot. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think having driven the Mustang GT for the last 7 days? Well, I've enjoyed my experience with it. Obviously, rowing your own gears in a V8 sports car with a beautiful exhaust like this car has, you're not going to have a bad time. This isn't a bad car, and you know what? I absolutely love that Ford is doing these performance cars. I've had a Bronco Raptor, loved it. I had a Ford Raptor R pickup truck. Loved it. And this car has been no different. They're fun, they're rowdy, and it just spikes your blood pressure a little bit while driving, which is what I look for in an enthusiast vehicle. It's a good car, it's a fun car, and if you're into Mustangs, this is just yet another feather in its cap of wonderful automobiles. However, in practice, there are a couple issues with this car, and I think the biggest thing is that I just walk that line every time I drive it because the driving experience feels very old. I'll be honest, it feels like I'm driving a 2012. It doesn't rev like a more modern V8 from like Lexus products seem to rev, and I've driven a lot of Lexus products, that's why I always go to them. Which, Ford is producing V8s when a lot of other manufacturers are stopping or have stopped, so I have to tip my cap to that, of course, but it just doesn't offer anything new. But then on the flip side of that, why I say it's towing the line, is that all this technology is like so advanced in here. The touchscreen, everything, the customized this, the sound system that, everything is so modern, it feels like a new body on an old chassis. And so if you've ever sat there wondering if you're driving your 2008 Mustang GT at home here today up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Flagstaff, Arizona, wherever you are today, if you're driving your '08 Mustang and you said, hey, I wish this had Apple CarPlay and adjustable exhaust, well, you're looking at what that would be. So if you like it how they used to make it, this is the car for you. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Ford for loaning out this car for me for the last 7 days. Absolutely wonderful to be driving. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, and of course the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.